So, continuing on with our kind of brand new series, Profiles in Geek, or I don't know, maybe we'll rename it. I'm not sure.
Geek Files.
We're here with one of our friend podcasters, and it's one of the few podcasts out there we actually listen to. So, take heed. This is Gerald from Anime World Order.
Hey guys, what's up?
Woo! All right, Gerald.
Yay.
So Gerald, we just said that we listen to the Anime World Order. Do you listen to the Geeknights?
Yes, I do occasionally.
Okay.
Because my job is largely sitting in front of a computer all day, podcasts are kind of how I make it through the day. Yeah.
See, I could pull the card of, but I listen to all of Anime World Order.
Yeah,
It's not hard to listen to all of us since we come out with an episode a month or so.
I know, God, it's like I'll hit iTunes, like, oh, they updated, download, listen, and then that's it. It's done, and now I gotta wait.
But I guess in some ways it makes it sort of, special, where like you'll actually listen to all of them because it's like a rare treat, whereas Geeknights is like, there's so much, so you don't feel bad, not eating all of it. I don't know.
Yeah, how many episodes do you guys have now? Like
we don't know.
Something?
490 something.
A lot.
Okay, that's a lot. Yeah.
That's why I marked them with dates instead of numbers, so I wouldn't get scared.
Well, also because the ID3 version 1 only lets you have 3 digits in the podcast or number episode field, so we realized early on we couldn't go with that.
Yep. All right, so if you do listen to the Geeknights, how did you discover the Geeknights?
I'm pretty sure I found it through when Daryl met you at, was it Katsucon?
It was Katsucon 2 or 3 years ago. I forget which Katsucon.
Yeah.
They all
I think
blur
it was
together.
4 years ago because I think you went, you didn't go.
Yeah, no, it was because it was one of the Katsukons where I drank, which was every Katsukon but the most recent one.
Yeah, Daryl insists that you had short hair then.
No, that's Rim has had long hair since I've known him, which is since 2000.
I've had long hair since 10th grade.
Yeah, so Daryl is.
I did, however, still have the mustache.
He did have the stash.
And I remember very specifically.
Maybe that was a beard time, actually.
I might have had a beard because whenever I was drunk, the times when I'm drunk, I tend to have beards. But I was quite drunk when I met Daryl. And
Maybe he was mistaking the beard for hair. I don't know.
Maybe he thought Rim was someone else. I don't know.
I wasn't sure what to make of Daryl because he came over to me and showed a microphone in my face. And he's like, I'm a podcaster, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, I'm a podcaster too.
I wasn't there, so this story is still funny to me, like every time. Because didn't you have Scott Johnson's like tape recorder?
I did, and I couldn't. Actually, it was the worst thing ever. I got drunk and decided I was going to be a real podcaster journalist. So I went around interviewing people at the convention, but I was drunk. So this tape was this rambling collection of, how are you enjoying the con? What? Get away from me, dude.
So are you like the friendly drunk or the quiet drunk? Or
Rim is the root beer tapper playing drunk.
That's pretty much it. I get drunk and eventually I end up at a root beer tapper machine somewhere.
Interesting. Yeah. You should experiment and put yourself in like the middle of the Sahara or something and see if you just unearth a root beer tapper machine.
You kidding? That's where they put all of them. That's why there's so few in this country. All right.
Yeah, have you ever been to the Katsucon?
Me, no, and I really wanted to go because that year that Daryl went, they had Akira Kamiya there, and Akira Kamiya is one of my favorite
he's awesome.
voice actors.
Actually, if you really want to hang out with him, go to Animazement because he's there almost every year. And as long as you make friends with the staff, he totally just hangs out with everybody in the back room, and then he's awesome. He's like the best guy ever.
I bet, and I mean, he spends all his time now like teaching other voice actors and not doing enough voice acting himself. But well, I guess he doesn't need to since like Detective Conan fills that void.
But he did this panel the one year I was staff at Animazement where he actually, despite not really speaking English with the audience, he ran a voice acting clinic, and it was crazy how awesome that panel was.
Yeah, Daryl was telling me that at the panel he went to, he talked about like how he did the voices, and he talked very specifically about how he positioned his mouth to like do Kenshiro's voice and things like that. And I guess if you've been doing it for 30 years, you've pretty much got it down. Which is unfortunate that he can't do the voice of Kenshiro anymore.
Yeah.
So, I just heard recently that Mari Iijima can't physically sing the songs from Macross anymore.
Whoa.
Really? Because she was like going around the country singing like not more than like a year or two ago, right? Like
Yeah, she was actually just at some concert in Japan. It was like Minmay meets like Firebomber or something like that. It was like
well, there was also like all that Macross anniversary stuff, and then
yeah.
there was all that she was at like New York Comic Con like one of the not this year, but maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I forget. And...
Yeah, I just heard from a friend of mine, Mike Dent, that she can't. I thought it was a licensing issue, but I guess she can't like physically sing those songs anymore. Like her voice just can't take it.
We can get
Which
the Hatsune Miku whatever to sing the song.
As far as I'm pretty sure that she probably has, so because geeks have got nothing better to do with their time. Have you seen that one video? I think that was one of your things of the day, where they set like the Mario to like some music, and it had it play some music.
Oh yeah, those
yeah.
perpetual motion / Rube Goldberg Mario machines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it had just played like the music from the Nico Nico Doga medley.
Yep.
Ah, okay. Because
Yeah.
the one I listened to that I really liked, it was just all I could think when I first listened was, wow, it's Nightwish in Japanese. This is awesome.
Yeah. The best one that I saw was the one that was doing the Bokurano uninstall. That was a good one. I like that.
Yeah, it was really impressive, and from what I understand, it was like a team effort. Like they just sent it off, and some people did one bit of it, and then other people added.
So that's why it was so
video.
many separate screens as opposed to just one big long one.
Right.
All right. All right, so Gerald, you listen to, I guess, some Geek Nights. We in so many episodes, we often run out of show ideas and end up making shows like this, which are sort of cop outs. So, can you give us an idea for a Geek Nights episode that you would like to hear?
A Geek Nights episode. Why Black Lion is an awesome show, and anyone who dislikes it is stupid.
All right, so how can we get this Black Lion that I've never heard of?
You can buy it. It's on DVD. It's just out of print.
Oh, great.
I'll get it.
There are many haters of it. They don't understand that a show set in the 15th century that contains time machines, cyborgs that spits missiles out of their mouth, and the guy that's gotten his head cut off and been blown up several times can be good. It's by Go Nagai. So
There we go.
Uh-huh.
we go. Yeah.
All right, we'll put that on the list somewhere.
It's 45 minutes long. That's the entire show.
Really? Oh, maybe then we will do it. That actually sounds doable.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's the biggest problem we have now is we want to review a lot more shows because, we kind of split up with comics and all that, but we don't have time to watch. I mean, I'm just now watching Kaze no Yojimbo from like 2002.
Yeah.
Of course, it's not that good.
Well,
It's okay.
that's kind of how we live. I mean, I'm getting through Nobody's Boy Remy. That's from 1973. That is the saddest show I've ever seen in my life.
Really?
Sad-
Directed by Osamu
well-
Dezaki. It's so sad.
Have you seen Bokurano all the way through?
No, not all the way
Yeah.
through, but I have a hard time believing Bokurano can be sadder than this show.
I haven't seen enough of either show to make a judgment. But remember, Rim, what was that show? It was like Boy Blue something.
What?
Oh, we watched it at Anime Club like freshman year in the science building.
Romeo's Blue Sky.
That's it. That's the
I've
one.
actually, I think I've seen that show. Yeah, I
That's
have
the
seen
show
that
where
That's a sad show.
oh, you're a kid who's poor. Oh, don't worry. Your dad's going to pull through and make it. Oh, no, your dad's got cancer and your house burned down.
Oh, it's like that every episode. It's like, oh, you're such a happy kid. Oh, you're so poor. Oh, your cow. That's the only thing that's good to you in the world was sold. Oh, now you are sold. Oh, now you have to act like an idiot in front of people. Oh, your best friends die. Oh, a meteorite hit your house. Oh, there's horrible things constantly happening.
Of course, then there's the Now and Then Here and There, which is all. That show was particularly brutal because it started
That
out like
show-
a fantasy romp, and then the next episode, dead cat and rape all around.
Hilarious. Laugh a minute.
Okay. So, something other than basically what I'm going to ask you is I wanted you to give me a suggestion on how to make Geek Nights better, but I think I don't want you to say do an episode about Black Lions. You have to say something else.
Dude.
So, are you talking about like any particular day?
No.
perhaps?
Just like, it could be anything. Just something that we can change about Geek Nights that would improve the show in some way.
I think if you if you played every episode like Dolomite, then that would be awesome. Where you sang the entire episode in rhymes, that you would have people listening. That would be pretty awesome.
I think that might take too much preparation, but maybe we could do
Maybe.
one episode like that.
You realize that hesitation rhymes just fine, and you totally missed your chance.
I know. What do you want? I'm hungry.
All right, Scott, do you have any questions that aren't so blah, 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 Geek Nights?
I know. Those are. It's just I sort of stack the top of the questions that way, and I'm still reworking on these. All right, this is only the second one of these we've done. Give me a break. All right, so Gerald, you're obviously primarily the anime geek, but do you have any other geekeries besides that?
I do like video games a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I actually was playing through Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence because Metal Gear Solid 4 is coming out, and I kind of want to be up on that. I like. I'm a really big fan of like 90s adventure games, like PC games, like the LucasArts stuff.
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm.
Quest for Glory? You ever play Quest for Glory?
Quest for Glory, no.
Oh, those are the best ones.
That's the way. If you would have said yes, we would have just been able to kill 10 minutes of you talking about it. But
But stuff like Grim Fandango and Dave the Tentacle and Sam and Max and those point-and-click ones, I'm a huge fan of those.
yeah, it's like I really like the stories and the plots in a lot of those games and the animation and everything, But I found that when I try to play them now, like I loaded up the Scum VM a little while ago, and I tried to play like Full Throttle and some of the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
And if you use a FAQ, basically you just burn right through the game and you see the the story, and then it's over. If you don't use a FAQ, it's just really frustrating because it turns into a game of click on absolutely everything and absolutely every combination until you move forward.
Or,
Sometimes.
pay attention
Yeah.
and just solve the puzzles.
I mean, sometimes it makes sense, but sometimes it just doesn't.
Sometimes it really depends on the logic of the world. Like there are some point-and-click adventures where the answers are logical, and some of them are just crazy. Like, did you guys ever play any of the Legend of Kylandria series?
I've never even heard of that.
Or Kyrandia?
Actually, no, yeah, I might have heard of that. I think I saw the name somewhere.
Yeah, it came out in the early 90s, and it was by Westwood. And they were like the epitome of, if you do not collect these items and go to this area, then you will die and you will have to reset your entire game.
Oh, so it's Shadowgate.
Yeah, and like one of the problems that came up was like you had to sneak into this bathroom or something like that. I forgot, and you had to fool the guy who was guarding it. And the way to fool him, and if this makes sense to you, like if you would figure this out through the game's logic, you had to find a squirrel, hypnotize the squirrel, and wear it on your head as a hat before you could sneak in.
So wait, this is Westwood, right? So
Yes,
this is the
Westwood.
same people that made Command and Conquer, and I believe
same.
didn't they also make like the Blade Runner game?
Yep, that one too.
That game was actually really good.
Yeah, didn't they make? I think they made the Planescape Torment game. No, maybe
I don't think
I
so.
don't remember, but I think there was an advertisement for it on one of their CD-ROMs for like Red Alert. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Any-
some of them were just out there. Like even today, there's the Touch Detective on Nintendo DS is like that.
Oh, really?
Like-
Because I was thinking about getting that when it was like $10. But-
It's a really great game, and I really like the style in it. But you can't get through the game without a FAQ because, like, again, one of the puzzles is you have to get into this room, and in order to get into this room, you have to make the landlady have memories of her youth. How do you have her have memories of her youth? By finding a bicycle pump and pumping her up so she floats away.
See, you got to go with the deja vu strategy where you knock her out and pump her full of methadone.
Yeah. Deja Vu was actually that was a game that I was able to beat on logic alone. I mean, it took me a while as a kid, but I was able.
Well, there's
to
there's one problem with logic in that game because I remember the first time I beat it.
right before you go to the police station at the end, give absolutely everything you can to the evil alligator in the sewer.
No, my problem was I had everything I needed. I went to the bungalow. I got it all. I, of course, saved my game.
You didn't have enough money to pay for the taxi.
I had two $20 bills, but not enough quarters. And the cabbie wouldn't take a 20. And that was the end.
Yep.
Yeah, at least they're not like any of those games done by Roberta Williams. Those games are just brutal.
Well, I'm playing the new Penny Arcade one. I played it for like 5-10 minutes. We'll see how it goes. I mean,
So it was only worth playing for 5 or 10 minutes?
well, no, that's all I've had the time to play it so far.
Oh, okay.
My first impression of 5-10 minutes is that, the theme of the game is absolutely amazing because it's all Penny Arcaded, and the gameplay is average, not really exciting or revolutionary.
Hey, it's better than that card game.
It's like click on a box, get an item, turn-based, fight the little fruit fucker, Final Fantasy-ish, fighting combat, whatever.
The very few impressions that I've heard of it give me the idea that if you are not a Penny Arcade devotee, then most of the humor will be over your head.
That
Probably
makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
All right, so
Well, speaking of Penny Arcade, do you read any webcomics?
No, actually, I don't. I've actually had a
None.
hard time getting into webcomics because I tried to read a couple like way back when.
Oh, when they were all
And-
awful?
Yeah, and I think that probably scared me away. And then people have like said, "Oh, you should check this out or you should check that out." And I guess with webcomics, being a webcomic, you can be very, very focused on what sort of humor you want and what sort of audience you want to read you. And invariably, I'm not that audience.
mm,
And like, I like XKCD
Ah.
some of the time.
I love that
Like-
comic.
I don't know. I
Some-
get the feeling Gerald would be a
Very-
Dr. McNinja fan.
I think he'd be a Perry Bible Fellowship fan.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I read a bunch of that. Like, that's one that I've heard about, and I read a few, and again, that was kind of hit and miss for me. And I guess that's kind of the best you can say about any webcomic.
Well, you seem to enjoy. I mean, now and then, here and there is a laugh riot, and the parking lot is full. Is probably right up your alley.
Oh boy.
It's goofy time. Is all I got to say
No,
about that.
don't be talking about that stuff. It's no
Oh
good.
god.
Or I'm surprised you never read like the Thin H line.
I did read the Thin Edge line way back when I had a really old dial-up modem.
Yeah, I remember. I love that comic, but at the same time, I look back at it and I'm not sure if I actually find it funny.
Well, I just remember that it had like 5 different jokes or so, and once it had gotten through all those jokes, it basically just had to recycle those jokes. I'm not actually certain if is it still going today.
I don't think so.
No, it ended when we were in college still, and then he went on to do something else, and then he quit. Right? I don't remember.
Yeah, I know
Anyway.
that was really popular for a while.
Right, well, you read the manga, right? But do you read any non-manga comics that are printed?
Non-manga comics that are printed.
Yeah.
No, not really, and that's not like meant to be a snub towards American comics at all. It's just more like I've got piles and piles of unread manga here. I don't need to add piles and piles of unread American comics to it
Yeah,
as well.
I got piles and piles of unread both. So
Yeah.
there's
It's kind of like how people were saying to me, you should get onto World of Warcraft. You should play that with us. And I've got a bunch of unopened games here, tons. Like I just buy them when they're really, really cheap. So I've got enough games. If I never bought another game, I'd probably be set for years.
I know that
Yep.
feeling. I mean, I bought BioShock like right when it came out. I played up until that doctor. I killed him, and to this day, I have not played beyond that point.
I got BioShock right now. I've got, let's see, I still didn't beat. I got Okami for the Wii.
You haven't even turned that on.
Wait, I never actually beat Super Paper Mario. I didn't. I'm still working on Mario Kart. I got the Rondo of Swords. I didn't actually beat Mario Soccer ever. Right?
Can
Okay.
you beat that game, or is it more like
You can get
just
all. You
keep
can like
playing?
do all the single player like tournament cup. You can win all the cups.
Okay.
Scott tends to unlock everything for me in multiplayer games, and I just play the multiplayer.
All right.
Right.
I got Civ 4, which I just bought. I got the BioShock. I got.
You said that already. I think you're
Did I?
rambling.
Oh, I got
BioShock?
Everyday Shooter and the Penny
Oh,
Arcade
yeah.
game.
Yeah.
So none of those games I've beaten. I have them all sitting there.
Plus, wait till you watch the most recent Yahtzee. You got to buy Painkiller now, too.
I probably do actually. I read a review of Yazzie's review, and it sounded like a game I wanted. Sounded like a game I might be interested in.
Yeah, and so I don't really need to get World of Warcraft that's $15 a month that will fill up my life, and I will never talk to anybody ever again.
But
Well, you'll talk to the World of Warcraft people.
You'll make friends in the game. That's what.
Yeah, but World of Warcraft people are the most vile people in the world.
Gerald, I could kiss you right now because this is always,
Listeners would love that action.
this has always been a. We always get into arguments in our forums about World of Warcraft, and my feelings are just that I have better things to do with my life, implying that you also have better things to do with your life. And
Well, I pretend that I've got better things to do with my life, but I just tend to do them alone rather than with other shitty people.
I don't know.
Uh,
I think people like us could enjoy a game like WoW a lot more if it was more skill based and less how much time do you spend in front of it to get the mad loot with the 1.489% drop rate.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it might be a perfectly nice, perfectly good game, and I've heard from people that it's still a fun game to play, but it just seems like I don't really want to get involved in that because everybody I know who plays it is insane, and they spend every night doing only that, and I never see them, and I never talk with them, and I don't want to be like that. I'm perfectly fine doing my things, and I've got enough anime to watch. I don't need a World of Warcraft to be taking up any more time.
Got anime, just like unfinished games. There's enough anime that I haven't seen to where they could never make an anime again, and I'd still have stuff to watch for the rest of my life.
As long as you get your hands on it.
Yeah. Well, I tend to go wild when there are sales on. And
Yep, whenever I'm at a
so-
con and there's the guy with the $4 or $5 DVDs, I have 3 separate copies of the second Urusei Yatsura movie just because I love that movie.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I just ordered all of Gatchaman, the original Gatchaman, Battle of the Planets.
That's
They
the
had
one with
a
the guys with the bird hats, right?
Yeah, sale. They had those box sets are kind of tricky to find, and the show is just awesome. And it's I'm afraid that that's going to be one of those shows like Or Battle or Dunbine that you're just never going to see the end of it because those they're only going to produce like 20 DVDs of it later, and then they're just going to be gone forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all right, so anime is obviously your biggest geekery, but how did you originally become an anime fan? I mean, you weren't born with, like, a fan sub hanging out of your mouth, were you?
Close to it. Well, it's kind of a long and boring story, but I'll keep it as short as possible. No, it's actually not long and boring at all. It's just boring. I started watching anime when I was living in South Africa, and we had one channel on television that was on for about 6 hours a day. That was ironically called TV1, and they showed Robotech on there. And I remember watching that, and I was really young, but I knew that this was just something very different from, Paddington Bear and Scooby-Doo and things like that. And when I came to America, there was a little bit more of it on TV, not a whole lot, but we were in the Virgin Islands, and in the Virgin Islands, it's impossible to get much anime down there. And my roommate is looking at me very weirdly as I'm talking.
Hello, roommate. We should talk to
she's
your
laughing
roommate.
at me now.
What's he really like? What's he really like?
My roommate is female, actually.
No, that's what we would tell. We would ask
Oh.
your roommate, what is Gerald really like?
Oh, what am I really like? Oh, she's going to say horrible things about me.
Yes, that's the idea.
She's laughing. She's agreeing with that.
Yeah. All right.
She said Gerald's a faggot. I disagree with that.
So the Virgin Islands, where Gerald's from?
Yeah. Then basically, every time we'd make a trip to Puerto Rico or to Florida, I would generally get to the comic book stores because that's the only place you could find anime. And I think around 1988 or 89, I found a copy of Akira in a comic book store. It was like $40.
Wow,
It was
that's
the
a
old
lot.
Video Comics edition.
Was it the subtitled one?
No, that subtitled version came much later.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was the special subtitled edition that I think was like widescreen, but it wasn't actually widescreen. It was cropped. Or
Yeah,
something.
that was the one that the Anime Club had a VHS of. It came in like a little white box.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, this was the old Video Comics one, and I remember watching this, and it seemed like pretty hard for a while, and then suddenly like there's the guy walking through the cars, and then the dog runs at him, and then he pulls out the gun and shoots the dog right in the head. Like, wow, this is pretty rough. And then the other dog jumps at him, and then he shoots it, and it splats against the car, and there's the kid inside the car, and there's this dead dog guts all over the car. Like, wow, this is interesting. And
That's how I
So-
felt, Vampire Hunter D when I was in 4th grade.
Yeah. No, it's funny because actually I haven't seen Akira in a long time, and I actually I needed to buy something on Amazon to get an order to have free shipping. So I'm like, oh, I'll get the Akira DVD, the the Pioneer Genion one, because I didn't have it. So I said, all right, I'll get it. I should own that. So it showed up recently, and I was like, oh, I remember this. Oh yeah. It was good times.
Yeah, I really miss that dub though, the old Cam Clark Streamline Pictures dub, which
I miss some of it.
Do you think it's really? I mean, is it good or is it just pure nostalgia?
I think that it has its moments that are certainly memorable, because I can't like things ironically. I either like them or I don't. There's no distinction for me if it's like an ironic love or any other sort of love. But I mean, the one, like, the Colonel was played by the guy that did McCruff the Crime Dog, and there are points in that dub where he growls, and you can hear it. I do like it a whole lot. Actually, what anime? I don't think Akira wasn't the first anime that I owned, though. I think I might have owned. No, I couldn't have owned much before that, because I think the other anime I owned after that was like Project Echo and Gal Force and things like that.
Now, were you one of those people? I don't know if you've said this. I forget on Anime World Order, because I forget, where a lot of people seem to watch Project Echo as kids, and they didn't get that it was a joke, and that because I was like, it was serious business, and what's going on, and where'd you get those powers? Oh my god!
We actually had this discussion, and I'm in the group that I watched it and I saw it as a comedy because the faces weren't all crazy and such. And to me, that was a sign of a comedy. And Daryl was in the group of that this was, an action movie with some comedic moments. So, and I don't really, disparage people either way. I just want them to watch Project Echo. So, yeah, I actually thought it was a comedy. Like, I don't know, that the big Mari, the like Kenshiro.
I love her voice in the dub. Just,
yeah, well, that they did actually get two different people for both the dub and the sub version, unless they just like cut the sub, like screaming in the sub into the dub. That dub was really good though. That was I thought it was actually one of those dubs that was done in London, but it wasn't. It was actually done by just off-Broadway actors, but I really love that old dub a lot.
Yeah. There was a period, I think it was a few months back, where I went around like listening to like audio clips from, old dubs that I thought I liked or did like. And just listening to them, I sort of had, it was very weird, because on the one hand, my modern sensibility of, oh, that dub is terrible, hit me on one side. But then the other half of my brain was like, oh, the nostalgia, it's so great. Don't you remember this? And I'm like, no. And it really tore me in half, kind of.
I think those old dubs had, in some ways, a lot more heart than a lot of modern dubs, even if that's just a product of less professional development.
Yep.
Well, I kind of see it sort of like that, maybe. Like, the dubs today are technically very well done. There's no comparison to those old dubs. But I don't know. It seems like they're having a lot less fun doing the dubs. I don't know. I really can't tell, because, like, I was comparing the ADV dub of Project Eden, the Dirty Pair movie, to the streamlined dub of Project Eden. And the streamlined dub of Project Eden is a terrific, terrific dub. It's got a lot of heart, it's got a lot of jokes in it, and they rewrote some lines, but they still maintained like the flavor of the show. And the ADV dub technically was better, but just came off as sort of, we're doing this because we have to do it and get our paycheck.
Yeah, I think it's just back then, I guess they just took it a lot less seriously. They're just like, yeah, we're just making a dub of an anime, whatever. But now they're like, oh, this is serious business. We got to do this right.
Well, especially you meet a lot of the American voice actors at conventions, and I don't want to disparage any of them that I may or may not have met over the years, but they seem like they take themselves a lot more seriously than even the professional original Japanese voice actors do.
Some of them. I mean...
Yeah, it really depends on who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, Lisa Ortiz was just awesome and cool. But obviously, I'm not naming names of the ones who are a little, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll say the names of them, but like I've only met Vic Mignogna very briefly, and he was very pleasant. Like, went up, shook my hand, and just said, "Oh, that's cool. You've got a podcast or whatever." It was a brief meeting, so I can't really say anything about him because he's the one that stands out because he's got like fan club and everything. So, but I mean, I guess. I can't think of any that I've met that have really gotten on my nerves. or anything. The one thing that does annoy me, and this isn't necessarily like a dub voice actor thing, but it's when you get these people that work on the American editions, and then they talk about how, well, I was working on this show and I wrote the episodes for this show, and then I wrote the episodes for this show, and when they didn't write these episodes really, they adapted them from the Japanese script, because there's a different level of writing when you're writing something that from scratch, and then when you're just adapting something. And when they say, you know, I'm on the same level as the guy that just wrote this from scratch, that kind of annoys me a little bit.
Yeah, it seems like I've noticed that a lot, is that you'll see in manga or anime that they'll credit someone as a writer, you know, even though, you know, they're really like an adapter or, you know, just sort of a translator. You know, it's like they didn't even translate it. Someone else translated it, and then they just sort of took the raw translation and
so you're an inker.
converted it to something, you know, intelligible instead of just, you know, a bunch of translation notes.
And it's certainly not to disparage that, because there is an art to adaptation and translation, but it's not like writing a show from scratch. It's a different thing.
Yeah, it's not something like, oh, that's a bad job or it requires no talent or it sucks.
Yeah.
It's that, you know, should it be called writer is the question. Should it be called something else instead of writer? And that's sort of like, I had a similar argument recently with some comic book nerds, because they were like, oh, who's the best writers of all time in comic books? And they were all like, Stan Lee. And I'm like, look, Stan Lee, he came up with some ideas that happen to be successful, but the man can't write for a hill of beans, you know? I mean, alliteration, spelling errors, grammar errors, you know.
Lots of boldface, randomly.
Random boldface text, a picture of a guy punching a guy, and the guy who's throwing the punch says, I punch you.
You little guy.
Yeah, and like, it's not good writing. I don't, you know. So
you don't have much hope for Ultimo, I guess?
You know, I think I said this in our coverage of the Comic-Con, but all the promotional material that we received or that we saw was not Ultimo by Stan Lee. It was Stan Lee's Ultimo.
So they know what they're pushing there, huh?
Oh, they definitely do.
Yeah.
But
Stan Lee has been big into, like, he's known about manga for a long, long time. There's actually like photographs of him meeting with Osamu Tezuka and such.
Yeah, I mean, the guy is a smart guy. He's a friendly guy. He's really good at business. He's really good at lots and lots of things, but he's not good at writing. According to my definition of writing. I mean, he can come up with ideas for characters, or, you know, depending on how much of the, you know, characters he came up with, you know, versus how much the other guys who worked at Marvel came up with them. You know, we're not going to have that argument, but, you know, there's a lot of things about Stan Lee that are positive, but he cannot write for shit.
Yeah, I haven't read enough of his work to actually make a decision on that. But did you guys happen to see this? Are we running long on time?
No, whatever. Don't worry about it.
There was this very interesting article up on the Star Wars website, and it was comparing the Star Wars manga that came out in the 1970s.
Oh, I've
with
seen
the
that
movies
one. Yeah.
to the Star Wars American comic book that came out at the same time.
Oh.
It was absolutely fascinating, and this is, again, I don't mean to disparage American comic books, because American comic books do things very well that the Japanese could learn from. But they specifically talked about that one because there were so many things that the manga did very well that the American comic book didn't really get across, like the destruction of Alderaan. I guess you guys don't.
Spoilers!
Oh my god! I have the feeling everyone listening to the show knows what that's about. But, like in the American comic book, it was just one panel, and it was just one panel of just Alderaan exploding, and that's it. In the Japanese comic book, it was 6 pages of just the Death Star firing up and then shooting and then hitting the planet, and then the planet rumbling and then exploding, and then a shot of Leia's eye and a tear running down her face, and it was it was a very sort of decompressed way of telling the story, and it's fascinating to see it because you just see like some of the rough things that the American comic book writers had to deal with then. Like every single panel almost had a narration block of text describing what was going on. Like the picture wasn't enough; they had to describe it as well.
I punch you, you little guy. He punched the little guy, and then a picture of a guy punching a little guy.
Yep.
Yep.
That's it.
All right, well,
It was absolutely fascinating.
let's get a little bit away from the kind of traditional geekery nerderies. So, you're a podcaster. Why?
Because we have nothing else better to do with our times. No, oh god, I don't know.
I mean, because it seems like podcasting like had a mini explosion. It didn't pick up like webcomics did, but it was like puff, and there's a lot of podcasts, and then a lot of those podcasts disappeared or
Pod
just
faded, as they called it, or whatever. I don't know.
I don't know if we need a word for that. That word's
Yeah,
always kind of bothered me.
It's pretty much gone. Yeah, I think we started doing Anime World Order because we were listening. Well, actually, it was all Clarissa's idea. Actually, like Clarissa should take all the credit for it because she was the one who started it up, and it was actually like an extra credit project for her. And then what we wanted to do was really honestly, we want people to watch good anime, and we just really like talking about anime a lot. And we were listening to a lot of the anime podcasts at the time, and some of them were okay. Like we were listening to the Ninja Consultants, and we thought they were really good. But nobody really addressed the things that we wanted to talk about. Like nobody was talking about virtually anything older than Naruto, and so we thought maybe we can do something that focuses on old school stuff. And there were a lot of podcasts that were reviewing like 1 or 2 episodes of a show. And we thought, well, 1 or 2 episodes doesn't really give you a good impression of the show because the show can shift halfway through, or the show can start to suck after a few episodes, because that was when Gonzo was coming out with all their stuff.
Gonzo.
Yeah, great, like 1 or 2 first episodes or first 5 episodes.
Of course, who are we to talk? We pretty much review single episodes all the time.
No, but we make it very clear that they were like, we're reviewing the first episode of this, blah blah blah. Don't take this as a blah blah blah. Blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we just decided to start our own because, well, we just really wanted people to check out good stuff. And every single podcast out there that we were looking at, another reason was because all of them out there were the anime and video game / Halo / lifestyle podcast. And we wanted it just to be about anime only. Mm-hmm. In fact, we've gone back and forth saying maybe we can do, a video game episode. No, we're going to do just anime and manga. That's it. We're just going to stick to that, and because that's what we know best.
Yep, I think it's worked really well for you guys. Yeah. I mean, I feel like even if you ever wanted to do like a video game special, it should be this separate thing, like Anime World Order presents, or I don't know what you could call it.
Yeah, maybe if you did it, you'd have to do it on like anime-related video games or something like that.
Or if you want to totally get away with that and cop out, you guys could appear on Geeknights as guest hosts for, say, a Tuesday, because we're going to 3 conventions in August, and then we're going out of town for a week in the middle of all that. So we need some guest hosts.
I see. Oh, speaking of anime video games, have you guys heard about the new Capcom game?
Which one? DC versus Mortal Kombat? Or is that not Capcom?
That's going to suck. But
that's not Capcom. Capcom does the Marvel and the Capcom.
They do the versus games, and they're coming out with it's Capcom, like Ryu, Chun-Li, Street Fighter, Mega Man, all that, versus Tatsunoko. So Gatchaman, Kashurn, Captain Tyler is part of it as well. Like Captain Tyler is part of Tatsunoko.
That's a crazy game right there.
Samurai Pizza Cats is part of it.
I love that show.
See, now the thing is that game ever going to be in this country?
That's the problem, and I don't think it is. I think we're going to have to import it because those rights
that's totally an arcade game
place.
too. That's not a console game, So we're definitely not going to see the arcade version.
I'm pretty sure they're going to probably put it on consoles at some point, but I really hope that game doesn't suck, because just like playing as the Gatchaman characters is just awesome by itself.
I don't know. Captain Tyler will do it for me, because that show is one of my favorite shows in all of anime. I love Captain Tyler.
His super move is just that he's just going to smack you over the head with a mallet, like that episode where he lit the ship on fire. The Soyokaze is just going to fly in and then crash.
I was always just a fan of the general who kept, every time things screwed up, he just tried to commit seppuku, and they're like, no, god damn it, stop that.
Captain Tyler. That would be neat if that made it in, but there's so much to pull from, like Hurricane Polymer and
I have no idea what
tons and tons. That's another kind of older show.
Yeah, I figured.
That's why Anime World Order is the more, I guess, literate anime podcast compared to Geeknights Wednesdays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we try.
I definitely think that's what, made me like Anime World Order in the first place, when I listened to it, was that you knew all this information about anime that, like, no one else knew. Like, I was at Anime Club at RIT with, like, the biggest anime nerds in the universe, but if they knew the shit that you guys know, they weren't saying it. They didn't know who directors were. They weren't, they didn't know all the really obscure stuff or anything like that at all.
That's what a lifetime of dedicating yourself to only one thing will do. Will keep your blinders on everything else, but you tend to be super good at one thing only, and that's the price you pay.
Plus, I feel like, there's not a very well-developed professional media or press presence when it comes to anime in the United States. Not like video games and comics and all these other kind of traditional geek things. Our equivalent of the AP Wire is basically the Anime News Network, and then people like you guys and us are kind of like the second tier where there's the more commentary and op-ed and opinion pieces.
Yeah, think about that. Anime News Network is the most professional, like, top tier of media when it comes to anime and such in the US.
And Anime News Network is good.
It is good, but it's like
basically the privilege they get is that they don't have to sign. I don't actually know because I don't know them, but like they don't sign up for press at Otakon. They're just assumed, and they get, if they have an interview with a guest there, it's not like an interview when I go to Otakon where I'll be sitting at a round table with like 5 other podcasters. They have it to themselves, every guest.
Yeah.
And
but I'm
that's
just
basically, yeah.
I'm just saying, like, we have Anime News Network is it's pretty good. It's high quality, right? But that's like the best we've got. But compare that to, say, the media covering, a different geekery. Say, look at the video game press, and if you had Anime News Network was about video games, it would be way low on the totem pole.
Yep.
It's lower than Joystick, it's lower than Kotaku, it's lower than, and that's sort of like the mid to low range of the video game media.
But also look at the popularity. Just the anime in general, or anime fandom and the way it is. It's kind of, it's very low-hanging fruit in that regard, in that, like, we go to Kineticon and it's like, yeah, do 11 panels, do whatever you want, please come. And we go to Otakon, it's like, well, you've been panelists for the last 6 years, here's your list of panels for this year. And then we try to do a panel at PAX, and it's like, well, are you guys professionals? I don't know about this.
Yeah, and the rough part is that for the most part, video game press still sort of sucks. Like, outside of N-Guy Kroll and such, who actually have like something to say about it, like reviews in the world of video game, like, reviews is like its own show.
Oh, I'm
sure.
Yep.
I'll be honest. My my favorite video game press is still Dave and Joel.
Well, I think the Dave and Joel, and you've also N-Guy Kroll. And
to a degree,
Zero
Yahtzee.
Punctuation.
Yahtzee tells me what to play.
Yeah,
He's
Zero
only been wrong
Punctuation.
once.
And the Angry Video Game Nerd. Those
He's
sort
not
of
press. He does not tell you about games that you are going to play.
He does. He tells me about old games I didn't play and will not play in the future. He's warning me. He's the opposite of
His show is just like you guys talking about OD over and over.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know, video games, it's certainly more mature because the video game press has been around for 20 years now.
I think it's just that there's more money involved. I think that's the only factor.
Yeah, there definitely is. And anime, even though anime is very mainstream, it's still largely niche, while video games are no longer niche at all.
Oh, plus the anime industry is, I don't want to say it's on the verge of collapse, but it's not doing well anymore in the U.S. And I know there's a lot of reasons for that. We could get you guys and us together on a show.
We could do a separate show for that.
We could talk for a couple hours about the video game industry. It's pretty obvious that you guys talked about it recently, and all I could think was, wow, I wouldn't have anything to say except what they just said.
We still have a lot to say about it, and we're all just really hoping that it doesn't collapse. And what's weird is that I was reading I was going back in the archives. I was like editing some Wikipedia entries or something, and I was going back to like the press panels from Anime Boston 2006 at the ADV panel there, and it's really funny because they were talking about how the crash that everybody predicted was over exaggerated, and those are the exact words from Anime Boston, like anime and state of the industry panel. So it's weird looking at that now.
Maybe if they weren't trying to primarily sell throwaway shows that people don't want to buy DVDs for to kids who don't have money. Huh.
It's very complicated. I can't blame either side completely because
Yeah.
both sides are.
I mean,
are
granted,
complicit.
I have this feeling though that, I mean, we talk about how the anime press isn't quite mature yet. From every interaction I've ever had with the industry, and especially the people who bring the anime out over here, and I know you guys have more interaction with them, but it seems like the companies involved are run very much, in many ways, unprofessionally, or at least not as professionally as I would expect, a corporation that is doing this sort of thing as its daily operations.
I don't know if I agree completely because I haven't had a chance to meet John Ledford. He was the head of ADV, but John Ledford is known as kind of the businessman. He's not an anime fan. He went out there to run ADV as a business, and I believe that like the kernel of ADV actually came from like Matt Greenfield and David Williams and those guys. But as far as like the other companies like Bandai Visual, I don't know who's running them.
Well, Bandai
Satan.
Entertainment is actually very professional, and
Bandai Entertainment, I
Funimation
think-
is also.
Well, I guess I should have been more clear because it's not. I mean, not necessarily just the actual. We license anime and release it, but all the kind of tertiary and related industries, like the people who sell all the tchotchkes, the people who import those things, the people who make licensed merchandise. Like, remember when the Myth Bags company just disappeared?
Yeah, they I don't know what happened to them. They just like their website wasn't being updated. They weren't answering their phones or whatever.
And
I
that
never
sort of
followed
thing
up
is
on that.
it's a lot more common in the anime industry than it is in a lot of other even kind of niche industries.
Yeah, I mean, in the video game industry, when you have something like the Phantom game console, it's like a big deal. It's like, holy shit, look, there's an unprofessional company. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, I guess one of the problems is that there's no good example for the anime industry to follow, really.
Ah,
Like the kung fu, like if you look at like other niche like video markets, like the kung fu movie industry in America, like not the movies that are licensed by the big deal companies, but like the smaller companies. It is the worst thing in the world. It must be to be a martial arts movie fan in America
Yeah,
because
'cause
you
it's
get
like-
horrible dubs and the movies are cut up. You still cannot get an uncut copy of Return of the Dragon today,
Wow.
and
Not
and-
even on the BitTorrents?
maybe on the BitTorrents, but I know that you cannot buy a DVD of Return of the Dragon uncut today.
Wow.
And
maybe that's it. It's that that industry isn't trying to go like professional mainstream, and it's a lot of these kind of fly by. Like, I never like when I get a Chinese action kung fu movie, I have no idea if it's a bootleg or not. I don't care. It's always a different company putting them out, and maybe it's just that the anime industry is a similar industry that's trying to break into the professional mainstream. So they're only as a whole unit, like the entire industry is only halfway there. So it looks bad, but it's not because it's sliding. It's just because it's trying.
maybe there was a really good article that a really smart guy named Dave Merrill wrote about this, and he talked about how I think this was in relation maybe to also the American comic book industry, in that the anime industry really wants to play with the big guys but doesn't realize that it can't. Like if you take in other niche industries as well, like toy trains or the doll making industry, like the doll making fandom. Like they're quite happy being, their small little niche thing. They're not like trying to get everybody to make dolls or everybody to get into trains, but anime, they're trying to get everybody to watch anime.
Well, I think the reason for that, though, is if you look at, say the people who make like, little trains like Lionel or model rockets or anything like that, right, is that they don't have a lot of, they don't see a lot of interest. They look around and they have a few guys coming into the hobby shop every week and that's it. But imagine if you were running the hobby shop and like 1 million people came in every day, but you only made like $100. You'd be like, all you could think was, I got to do something about this. So if you're an anime company, you could just be a happy little niche kind of thing. But so I think Anime Ego definitely goes that route of just being happy being a niche thing. But
Yeah.
you go to Otakon and you see 20,000 people and you're like, God damn it, if 20,000 people are crazy enough to come all the way out here, think about how many other people are out there. I should be making some mad monies off this. What am I, this is not a niche.
And that's the problem, is that the Japanese companies go to Otakon and Anime Expo and they see this and they're like, well, every person here obviously, represents many more people in America. Therefore, if we release our crappy show over here, then it's going to be a gigantic seller. And they don't realize that audience that you see, like less people that go to Otakon are going to buy the $80 for the Sento Yosei Yukikaze on DVD.
Well, at
And
$80, that's for sure.
or like $100. Like Sento Yosei Yukikaze is like one of these weird things where Bandai Entertainment released it for like $30 over here, and then they lost the license, and then Bandai Visual picked it up and sold it for like $100 or something.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
No one bought this
So-
for 30. Let's sell it for 100. Then people will buy
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Well, especially it's really hard to buy a crappy show for a lot of money when I can still buy Cowboy Bebop for $30.
Yeah, and I mean the repat like I guess it's people aren't really buying a lot of the new stuff as well. Like they just keep rebuying the old stuff. So
I've done
Although
that. I
they
bought
aren't-
Escaflowne almost twice.
yeah, and I guess there are crazy people who have bought Evangelion 4 times.
Oh yeah, the
yeah.
VHS, the DVD, the better DVD, the more better DVD.
Yeah, the one that was going to come out that had like a jacket in it and such.
Yeah,
And that
those
fell
people
apart.
definitely exist because I was in an ADV panel at Otakon, I think maybe 3 or 4 years ago, for like 5 minutes. I think I was in this panel, and people were standing up being like, when is it? Tell me more about this new Evangelion box you're making that is somehow different from the previous box, which I own, and the box before that, which I own. Because, they didn't actually say they own the previous boxes, but this wasn't someone who had never seen Evangelion before. That was for sure.
Right. And yeah, like the licensing, like I guess people don't realize that anime is like 80% merchandising, and so much of the merchandising that we get is just like imported from Japan. There's not as much like domestic merchandising, I should say.
I mean, it seems like comics are definitely going the route where, like, we at the New York Comic Con, you saw a lot of this, and there's some anime stuff too, but the kind of high class licensed properties, the nice, very expensive but very fancy looking bust of the major and that sort of thing. That it's worked really well for the comic industry because the comic nerds will spend a lot of money on those things.
Oh, that's why you have those crazy awesome solo chogukins in Japan. Those are the super awesome die cast metal figures of robots. They'll have like Mazinger Z and they'll have like obscure shows like Gold Lighton and Godmars, these obscure shows from the 70s, and they'll make these $100+ solo chogokin things, and I don't believe you call them figures, you call them like lifestyle accessories or something.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that we should go that route because but I do want one of those solo chogokin Mazingers.
I'd take one for less than $100, but I'm not paying that money for it. But yeah, definitely. Like I look even in Japan, not just for anime, but it seems like Japan is much better at merchandising almost everything. I mean, you go to like any Japanese, like convenience store, and you can get like a Mario toothbrush. You can get a Mario anything almost. You can get a Hello Kitty almost anything. But
Yeah, Japan. Yeah, go on.
But in the U.S., right, if you go to the toothbrush aisle, the only place you're going to see licensed thing is on like a kid's toothbrush, and you're only going to have a choice between like 3 things. Yet there's, hundreds of popular properties, but there's only like 3 toothbrushes.
So you're saying that you would buy a Makoto toothbrush?
I'd buy a Gundam toothbrush.
I'd buy a Rape Man toothbrush.
It had to come up sometime.
All right. Well, at any rate, before we wrap up, we should get in a couple more non-anime questions. So, what should we ask? Because I don't want to go the route of, so is there ever strife in the anime world order? How much do you guys hate each other? Oh, my.
So,
We hate each other a lot. So yeah.
Do you have any like we pretty much went over what your hobbies? Do you have any hobbies that like aren't generally considered geeky?
I work out a lot.
Oh.
I exercise, but I don't know if that's considered a hobby. Like,
I think it is if you enjoy it.
I
'Cause
do enjoy it.
I see people who
I-
work out and it's like they hate every minute of it. Like they're lifting these little weights and they're
Like
like, I hate working out. But I'm fat and I don't want to be fat. And then-
I do it. I don't enjoy working out. I don't enjoy it as much when I'm actually working out, but I do very much enjoy it when I'm finished because I feel like I've accomplished something. Like even though what I've accomplished is extremely minor, but yeah, working out I guess is not typically a geeky thing. They need to develop some sort of system where people can like watch anime and work out easily. Like you should watch Fighting Spirit, a Hajime no Ippo. That show will make you want to lift weights while watching.
Yeah, because Initial D really made me want to drive my car very dangerously.
It sure
Oh
did.
man, they should just pull your car into the lounge and just like drift in your lounge while you're watching Initial D. Yeah.
All right, so here, we'll end
Yeah.
on a bunch of kind of quick, easy questions. Like, now, obviously, it's a bad question is, what's your favorite movie ever? But name, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 movies, anime or not, just that you really, really like. We'll get a picture of Gerald here. Like, what do you
Anime
like?
or not? I'll just run off a couple. But most of them are probably going to be anime. But let's see. I really like The Goonies, the 1980s movie.
Oh, man.
I'm a big fan of that. I acknowledge that it's probably not a good movie.
Oh,
but,
it's awesome.
but I love it to death.
Truffle shop.
I really like Galaforce Eternal Story for an anime movie. I really like Murder by Death. It's kind of it's an 70s murder mystery that kind of made fun of a lot of the tropes of murder mysteries at the time.
I never heard of that. Ram Netflix.
They have like Hercule Poirot and all of these people all in one mansion at once. And Truman Capote is in it, like the writer. Just at the end, it's a pretty awesome little movie. I like Wings of Oniamis a lot. That's probably one of my
that movie
favorites.
is amazing. I watched like an 8th generation fan sub where you couldn't even read the subtitles. and I
Damn
still
you,
thought it was
Bandai Visual. I'll buy it if you make it cheap. Why is this
I really, in a way, I feel really bad because the guy that wrote that movie was 23 years old, and I'm older than him, and I've done less with my life than he has when he was
Don't
23.
worry, because we realized that Formula One drivers who have tens of millions of dollars, they're the most highly paid professional athletes in the world, are younger than us.
Oh god.
You know that video game pianist guy? What's his name?
Yeah.
We met him like a few years ago, and at the time,
Piano Squall?
Yeah,
no, not Piano Squall. No, no.
I don't think you
Okay.
understand the depth of my
Martin
dislike.
Martin Lung. Martin
Oh
Lung.
yeah, that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, we met him and we were like 20 something. We must have been like 24, 23.
Dude, it was like last year.
No, it wasn't. It was
2
like
years
2
ago.
years. It was 2 years ago. So we were 24, 25 ish. He was 19 at the time.
Oh,
And
boy.
I remember we were sitting with like the con chair of this con, and then him, and then us two. And he reveals his age, and all of us look at each other and go,
He's a really nice and modest guy, though.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Modesty is a great thing to have, especially the more awesome that you are.
Yeah.
I always like that, like the sleeper car where it looks like a piece of crap, but then it beats you off the line.
Yeah. Let's see other movies. I really love Porco Rosso. I think that's Miyazaki's best movie.
We were just talking
we
about
were just
that
talking about that
yesterday.
yesterday.
I think that's probably his least. It was his least successful movie for a reason, and I think it was for good reasons. Even though I think it should have been successful. Other movies that I like. I'm trying to think of like some non-anime movies, and I'm trying to think of like things that people might not expect.
Tootsie.
I'm looking. Tootsie. Tootsie's an awesome movie.
Actually, it is. I can't really make fun of
Yeah,
it.
it's not bad. My mom loves Tootsie.
Yeah. I'm looking at my shelf now. Project Echo, I really like. We just talked about that, so that shouldn't count.
All right, how about any TV? Like any, I mean, you're one of those people who watch like The Simpsons or anything.
Oh God, I'm so bad on that. I watch virtually no American TV.
Good.
Woo,
Good for you.
We don't either.
Well, the sad part is that I have cable.
Oh,
So-
just
Yeah.
get rid of it. We actually haven't had cable in like a decade.
Yeah.
But I watch like The Simpsons and those sorts of things, and then I'll watch Ninja Warrior. And,
Yeah, I
show
like
is
that action.
Awesome.
and Unbeatable Banzuke.
I don't know what that is.
Did you ever watch
That's-
American Gladiators back in the day?
Back in the day, I caught a couple of episodes of it, and then I saw that they were making a new show. And apparently, I'm told by my friends that the new American Gladiators are some of the roughest people that they've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah.
We'll have to check out at least one episode. Maybe it's online somewhere or something. Are there any books you like that are like words, not pictures?
Wordy books.
Wordy
Word
books.
Yeah. Let's see. I really like the Count of Monte Cristo. I'm starting
man.
that up again.
What translation do you like?
I'm not.
I'm just curious because if you thought you liked the book, read it again with the most recent Penguin Books
The
translation.
unabridged penguin.
Yes, it makes it. I was surprised that I could read a book again and like it more just because it's translated differently.
No, I need to give that a shot. I don't have that edition. Um, there's a couple of like weird books here and there. Like there's this one very weird little book that came out some years ago called Angry White Pajamas, which is about this skinny little like Oxford poet that goes to Japan to and gets training in the Japanese riot police like training program. He almost dies. So
Oh, I see the book right here. It's $10 on Amazon.
yeah, it's a weird, interesting little book.
Like any
let's see.
genres of fiction you like? Like, do you like fantasy books or science fiction or speculative fiction?
I like. I've tried reading some more science fiction, but it's hard for me to get into that because I have no idea what's going on in the world of science fiction writing today, and everybody I talk to has got totally different opinions on what to read.
Yeah, it's the same. It seems the same way for me with fantasy books. We have one guy in the front row crew who pretty much, if I want a fantasy book, I go to him and say, "Hey, Alex, give me a fantasy book that I will like," and he just hands me something and I read it.
I think the key with sci-fi is you don't want to go for the new stuff. Just try to read as many of the old classics as you can, like the Asimovs and the Heinleins and all that business. And then by the time you run out of that, you might be an old man not being able to read anymore anyway. So, don't worry about the other stuff.
Like I really like the original Conan a lot because I really like the philosophy in Conan.
If you like. You should join the Geeknights book club and read that book that we've been talking about for the last like a year, The Prince of Nothing. I don't think I can recommend that book enough. And if you like the Conan, then you'll probably enjoy The Prince of Nothing.
You probably like the Nair.
I think Nair is up your alley. Weeper.
Oh, really?
No,
It's Nair is the most violent of men, breaker of horses and men.
Oh, so is he more violent than Rikio?
he's pretty close.
Maybe not in terms of spraying blood, but in terms of, like, you look at a man and you try to gauge based on the way he's described the amount of violence contained within him. He is definitely Nair Sko-Eartha, most violent of men.
All right, you know how in like Fist of the North Star, right? Like Kenshiro is really big, but all the guys he kills are like twice his size.
Yeah.
Now imagine if you sort of flip it around and it's like the whole world is normal guys and there's one guy who's twice the size of everybody, but he doesn't go down like a chump. He's actually twice the size and twice as badass as everyone else.
And he's not even the main character. He's just there.
He's like this supporting character barbarian who just fucking kills everybody.
So how many people does he punch directly in the mouth and punch their brains out?
Quite
Just
a
the
few.
brains.
All I can think is...
It depends on your interpretation.
All I can think is that is the face of a man who has no option but to try to kill Dracula with his fist.
Yeah, I think he actually punches a horse's brains out at one point.
I mean,
that I can see, yeah.
I mean, he's also, there are cultures where whenever they kill a man, they have to scar their arm and it's symbolic and they carry the weight of that man's soul on them and this sort of... And he is also Nair Sko-Eartha, most scarred of men.
Yeah. Like the guy has scars all over his body, and if you know that each scar means he killed someone, that's quite frightening.
Right. I wouldn't, yeah.
Yeah. And like, all his barbarian friends who do the same thing have like a few scars on one arm.
You know what? I'll say this. Go, whenever you get a chance, you should probably listen to the Geeknights book club about it, because I don't think we want to derail this show just doing that
we're
show again.
already derailed here.
But I really...
Was it on rails to begin with?
All right. So,
all right, one last one. This is so Anime World Order. Do you guys have a kind of a vision of the future? I mean, even if it's not one of those like feasible things, if you could, would you try to go pro with it and live like that is your life and that is your job?
Oh fuck yes.
That's all I wanted to hear.
If we could like sustain ourselves, that would be awesome. But I think as you keep going in the world of podcasting, you have your like original goal, and then you're like, oh well, I guess this is not attainable. Then I guess our goal is to, well, originally our goal was to have, I believe, 100 listeners.
wow.
Like if we could get 100 listeners then we would be happy. And
I think you got that.
I think they've got a few more than 100 listeners.
yeah, well, the rough part is that we got like we got to like 1,000 listeners really quickly, and then to get to 2,000 listeners subscribed, like on our blog.
Yeah. Well, remember that's because
actually,
there's only like 3,000 people listening to podcasts.
yeah, and the thing is that we have a hard time like getting the exact numbers because there's probably at least double or triple the number of people that just download it directly.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's very, very difficult to figure out exactly how many people.
I mean,
are
you look at the
listening.
stats, and it's like if you do a real statistical analysis, like people like us can say things like, "Wow, I can say with a 95% degree of certainty that I have between 50 and 5,000 listeners."
That's pretty much like how we are, like, and it's rough because we did have like some advertisers come to us, and they said
They want to
well,
know.
they want to know, and I understand that they want to know, but we can't give them exact numbers. We can give them a relatively narrow range, but they want something more narrow.
Yeah, I think the trick
so-
there is to just lie. That way you'll get money.
Or just what we usually do is we tell the advertisers when they come, basically that unless you can give us enough money.
Well, that's our personal policy. That is, if I didn't have that policy, I wouldn't be saying this.
Yeah, I
Speaking
don't
of
know.
which, what is the weirdest swag that you guys think that you would ever like do for Geek Nights?
I gotta
We're doing a
avoid-
pretty weird swag,
We gotta-
depending on your point of view. Pretty soon,
Well,
Like,
but
I'm thinking of like Geek Nights condoms, Geek Nights, stamps on apples at the grocery store.
to steal from our last match game, the Geeknights pregnancy test.
Oh, that's a good one.
well, I mean, considering that our listeners, I don't know if you guys get this. I don't think you do to the degree that we do, which is kind of it's not frightening. It's just I never ever thought in my entire life up until now that there would be a point in my future where there would be fan fiction / gay doujinshi about me. That and the fact that it's there, and the worst part is now we're making this T-shirt, and now I think it's like, wow, there's gonna be a T-shirt with my face on it, and someone
Wow.
other than me might wear it. I don't know what to do about that, but we're making this shirt. Actually, Emily is making it, and we're saying, make it.
Please.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
our this catchphrase from a long time ago. Get the hell off my internets, and it caught on. So we, 2 years later, decide to make the shirt about it. And it's this Soviet propaganda poster, like straight out of Soviet propaganda. And it's a stylized rim and a stylized Scott standing in that Soviet way, fingers pointing. And it says, "Get the Pochner off my internet." Pochner, of course, is whatever the Cyrillic is for hell. And it's pretty snazzy looking.
Yeah.
Neat. We really have not done much with merchandising just because we just don't have the time.
Oh, forget
So-
not just the time. Getting even our vinyl banner and stuff. Like you need to do a lot of kind of difficult stuff to get these things printed, and you got to have a lot of money up front, and then the taxes, and it's
Yeah, I
It's
think
not
that's
easy.
the thing about podcasting is podcasting requires knowledge about what you're podcasting about, speaking abilities, right? Radio abilities, which is sort of an add-on to speaking abilities.
Which
you got
we don't have.
yeah,
So
you got to have the
that's-
audio technology abilities. And you got to have the computer abilities, of doing websites and things. So if you're someone who has all those abilities, it's going to be a rare case where you also have like graphic design, digital printing abilities.
Yeah, well, we're lucky in that Clarissa's a really good graphic designer,
Ah.
so we have that as well. And I'm good at standing around and doing nothing.
All right.
Yeah. We just have not done what we really.
oh,
I don't think
believe
we really
me.
planned on it. It was just kind of like, wow, people want T-shirts of our show.
Yep.
Maybe we'll do some T-shirts. And
Plus, just little things like our website's been this ugly-looking WordPress forever, and we're finally trying to redo that, and it's.
Oh, yeah, remember we got to talk about that after the show.
Oh, we do.
Yeah.
We got to pay her, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We paid one of our friends to redesign our website because she happens to be a professional graphic designer.
Like actually
that's
professional.
probably the best thing to go with then.
Actually,
Because,
we're trying. Scott's working on it now. I think we're going to actually just write our own content management system in Django and just use that entirely and just give up on this WordPress crap so we can do a lot more. I guess if it works, if you guys like it, we could just give it to you.
that'd be cool.
It'll be sort of custom made for our show, though. It's going to be like, things of the day, searches and stuff.
Well,
So-
honestly, I think because the way that sort of stuff works, this is, I'll give you an open letter to Anime World Order because I feel like there's a way that you guys could really bust out in a big way. Is you keep doing the long shows, but get like a Libsyn account and break every show up into each discrete bit. So whenever you record a show and you put it up, have a news feed that's just like all the news is, and a review feed that's just like all the reviews as individual bites. And I think you'll get a lot more casual listenership. And that's the kind of thing that we would do if we had time. And I know you'll say, oh yeah, we would do that if we had time. But
That's an idea because we've kind of hit like this block where I think we've got about as many people listening to the show as are listening to podcasts.
Yeah, we sort of had a plateau on our download graph also. Even though you don't know what the numbers are, but you can see on the chart it sort of went up and then sort of flat.
yeah.
Yeah, it's inching up, but it's now like I don't really know how we're not too sure what we need to do because we want to keep our old listeners because we love our old listeners because they've been with us since the beginning and we love them all.
Yeah,
but it seems like what you have to, because like we're trying to do something similar where people need, if you want to get linked to, it has to be like this discrete unit. Like if someone links to your show and says, oh my God, there's a great review of Odin or whatever, and then you guys talk about a bunch of other stuff, which we get this problem all the time, it doesn't get linked to as often. It doesn't hook people in. But if there's also that direct link where people can say, man, check out this review of Mazinkaiser, and they link directly to just the review of Mazinkaiser, and then they go, oh, it's by these guys. Oh, look, they reviewed that other show I like. Oh, hey, I can just listen to the whole show.
Yeah, the YouTube generation definitely wants lots of smaller things as opposed to fewer bigger things.
Yeah, I mean, on the other hand, we're kind of aiming for that that office worker that just wants sort of some hum in the background while they work so that they don't actually have to listen to it, but it's entertaining in some sort of subconscious way.
I feel like the way to go is you have to do both, and I think we're going to try to do both, so if it works, we can show you how to do both.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird thing with podcasting. Like, you don't see people really running to podcasting anymore. It's that was sort of like 2 years ago now, and now it's sort of, there's really no killer app in podcasting just yet.
Yeah, well, there isn't even a good, there's iTunes, and that's really the best you've got to even listen, and most people don't even know what podcasts are.
Yeah, it's like it got really big, and then it leveled off before people really figured it out,
Yeah, and the thing is that I'm not even against people calling them netcasts, because so many people I say podcast to, they still think they need an iPod.
God, our flyer even says that on the back. You don't need an iPod or iTunes or a Mac.
Yep.
Yeah, and so the naming needs to change. Something needs to happen where people start listening to podcasts again. Or maybe it's just at that point where, how can you get more people to watch television? You can't really do it.
See, I think we can, though, because I think just the technology has to get to the point where people carry something like an iPod or a cell phone thing, but instead of I go home, I run my podcatcher, I sync up, I go out, because only there's a certain kind of person who does that. If it was just like the radio, if it was like on-demand radio all the time, where someone's like, I want to listen to a review of anime, and they hit anime in their cell phone. Oh, Anime World Order.
Yeah, it definitely has to go beyond to something like that. I have got an iPod, and it's still annoying for me when I have to unplug it, load up iTunes, let the shows download, sync it up, take it back out.
That's the worst part, is that the iPods and the Zunes have Wi-Fi now. This is technologically within reach. You can have it's technologically possible on the iPod Touch, if the software was there, which it isn't, for you to, go and just browse podcasts, download them directly to it anywhere with this Wi-Fi. But Apple doesn't put the software on there to make it happen, but they could. And I don't know why they don't.
I mean, at least I don't think podcasting will go away. I think it's just going to be in a lull until technology gets better, because it's not like video can replace audio, because you can't watch a video while you're driving or working.
I think there's just going to be a gradual shift from all the current content distribution mechanisms like TV and terrestrial radio to just, things are on the internet and you can download them. And then there's just going to be, there's going to be professionally made content on the internet and non-professionally made content on the internet. It's all going to be just downloading video and audio from the internet that people made.
Yeah, because, I don't listen to morning radio. I can't really stand morning radio.
Hey, it's Wacky Morning DJ. We're here to talk about the stuff we're stealing from Fart, but after I farted the microphone.
There you go. I don't know. I think that would help. I think it would help as well if we could get, decent internet in America. I know that.
Yeah.
I know that, in Europe and such, it's a whole lot better supposedly. Because I think people have a problem with just waiting for the downloads as well, even though everybody's got high-speed internet.
Yeah,
it's
but
still,
we get periodically emails from people saying, "Hey, could you make a dial-up friendly version?" And I usually just laugh.
so a MIDI file of
Yeah,
Geek
that's
Nights,
sort
maybe?
that's sort of like if you had like a
You should release a MIDI file of Geek Nights.
That's gonna be the next April Fool's because no one's gonna remember this
Yeah.
by then.
that'd be like if you had a 286 and you sent like a letter to say, Valve, and you're like, "Hey, can you make a version of Half-Life 2 that works on my 286?
Yeah,
Help me out here.
really.
Port it to the Wolfenstein engine, then I can play it."
All right, I think we've
Yeah.
gone through our allotments. We'll probably end on that.
I don't know. Let's end it here. I just want to make because right. So just to end it, I want to know if Gerald has any like a message for the listeners, perhaps something you want to pimp besides Anime World Order, or anything.
Yeah, well, I guess the regular is, check us out if you liked what you heard, because normally we're a whole lot more edited on Anime World Order. At www.animeworldorder.com. Clarissa and Daryl, they write for Otaku USA, so check that out too. It's the most entertaining anime magazine out there, because Peak is not something else.
I haven't read the Peak, so I don't know.
Yeah, Peak is it's a magazine. I can definitely say it's a magazine.
Printed on paper.
Yes, sold in stores, things like that. It's got a P and I and a Q in its name. I can definitely say that. Yeah, that's about all I've got to pimp, really.
Well, I guess all I can say is that you guys keep doing Anime World Order because it's the rare compliment from Geeknights, but you guys are one of the like 5 or 6 podcasts we actually listen to at all, and you guys are great.
Well, non-professional. I listen to some professional podcasts.
Those don't count. Those
Yeah.
are separate.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
ESPN
appreciate it.
does not count.
We like every one of our listeners, so except
Except that
the-
guy. You know the one.
except-
Not like us.
yeah.
We hate our listeners.
Well, what's his name? Admiral Beefy or whoever seems to hate us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What was up with that guy who would like send that voicemail to you that was like so seething about hating us?
Oh, I don't remember that one.
It was really scary.
We get very.
Oh, you guys get some
Interesting.
fantastic. Maybe it's because we don't play this stuff on the air, but we don't get the really weird ones like you guys do.
Well, I guess our sort of podcast being as geeky as it is, it kind of breeds the especially geeky sort of people in a good way and in a bad way.
I guess
'Cause,
you can't have the rose without the thorns. You can't have the. I don't know if that's the analogy to use with anime fans and video game fans, and
I think that applies, and yeah, I mean, we get I'd like to say that we have the smartest listener base in anime podcasting.
I think on
And
average I might have to agree.
And
Yeah.
I do believe that. I think that our listeners are some of the smartest people in anime. But we get crazies too, and they're awesome because crazy people are awesome.
Crazy people. I mean, if Gona Guy is any example.
Well, Gonagai isn't crazy. Gonagai is a prophet. He's predicting the future.
I was under the impression that to be a prophet you must be crazy. I mean,
But no,
they go hand in hand.
You
huh?
realize Gona Guy came before.
No, he didn't.
Came before something.
Yeah.
before any, like people said with Elvis, like before anybody did anything, Elvis did everything. Before anybody did anything, Gonagai, fuck them all. Like,
All right. Thank you once again. This was Gerald from Anime World Order. Check them out and bother us to get Clarissa and Daryl on the show at some point in the future. This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geek Nights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com, or you can send audio feedback via Odeo. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.